Let's turn right now, Jeremy Scahill, to Massachusetts, to our next guest.
Yeah, Amy, first of all, I mean, this was a very, very interesting race because Scott Brown, like some of these other candidates, was very much trying to sort of run away from Mitt Romney and the extremism of a lot of the Republican platform. But I wanted to bring on a guest who's on the ground in Massachusetts right now, who works with the American Civil Liberties Union, has done a tremendous amount of work on privacy issues, on Fourth Amendment rights issues, and has been monitoring how some of these issues have played out. Cade Crockford joins us now from Massachusetts. Cade, tell us the situation in Massachusetts right now, and how it impacts, if it is indeed true that Elizabeth Warren has won, these issues that the ACLU has been working on in the state of Massachusetts.
We're just going to get her back on the phone. Cade Crockford is now joining us, Director for the Technology for Liberty Project at the ACLU Massachusetts. So we've just gotten this news of a network calling the race in Massachusetts for Elizabeth Warren over Senator Scott Brown. The significance of this, Cade Crockford, if in fact it is true?
Well, you know, it remains to be seen, honestly. On the issues that I work on, Amy, privacy and surveillance, civil liberties issues relating to the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, and the militarization of our local police departments here in Massachusetts and nationwide. On all of these issues, you know, not just the presidential campaign, as you've noted on your program, but also the Senate race here in Massachusetts was largely silent on all of these issues. You know, the candidates were not asked to debate questions related to civil liberties or privacy. They largely didn't bring them up themselves, and the few occasions in which the candidates were asked questions about these issues, they largely ducked them. You know, I think Scott Brown wasn't very proud of his record in terms of voting to reauthorize roving wiretaps authorized under the Patriot Act. But really, you know, Elizabeth Warren is sort of a blank slate on a lot of these issues. We really don't know how she's going to come down on, as Jeremy was saying earlier in the program, some of the really the most important issues that are facing our nation right now, which fundamentally is about restoring the rule of law. We've seen a real erosion of fundamental American principles of justice over the past 10 years. And, you know, Elizabeth Warren, as her colleagues in the next Senate she'll have a number of opportunities to actually change some of that. So, you know, the FISA Amendment Act, which is up for reauthorization, which Ron Wyden has said he's going to continue to put a hold on, she's going to have an opportunity to vote on that bill. She's going to be faced with proactive privacy legislation, such as the GPS Act, which would require that law enforcement simply get a warrant before it tracks our physical location using either the GPS devices that are in our cell phones or putting one on the back of your car. You know, there's going to be drones privacy legislation coming up to regulate the way that law enforcement and federal law enforcement are going to be spying on us from the sky. There are a whole host of issues that are really very crucial that unfortunately have been completely kept out of this entire election cycle, both here in Massachusetts and nationwide.
And Cade, also, you've been working on issues surrounding the scandal of the Boston Police Department and spying on dissidents and activists, as well as these plans for federalization or militarization of local law enforcement. Maybe we only have a brief amount of time, but maybe you could just talk about those issues and how they relate to the bigger picture of what has been debated or actually not debated in this country about paramilitarization of law enforcement, spying on dissidents, and surveillance in general.
Right. You know, we not very long ago at the ACLU of Massachusetts published a report called Policing Dissent, which essentially blew the lid off of what is a scandal. The Boston Police Department has been for at least 5 years spying on the entirely peaceful, protected First Amendment activity of, you know, anti-war groups and peace groups here in the city of Boston. This is a major story here in Boston, and unfortunately, it didn't make it up to the level of the statewide political race as far as the Warren and Brown contest was concerned. That's really unfortunate, and that has to change because, you know, issues like this, we saw with the Occupy movement. I like to sort of refer to it as, you know, democracy movements like that are sort of like lifting rocks that show sort of the unseemly side of what's been going on over the past 10 years. You really saw not just in New York City, but all over the country, police departments with incredibly advanced surveillance equipment and weapons deployed at largely peaceful protest groups, you know, this problem is actually getting worse. The Department of Homeland Security, no matter who wins the presidential election tonight, will continue to fund local police departments towards their militarization and also towards their federalization as they sort of cease to become local police agencies that respond to crime and increasingly are like small intelligence agencies. So, you know, Elizabeth Warren, if this is true that she's actually our next senator, she's going to be faced with a lot of these questions. And certainly whoever the president is in the next 4 years is going to be faced with dealing with those questions too. But, you know, just to say to everybody out there who's probably thinking to themselves, well, you know, whether it's Mitt Romney or Barack Obama, it doesn't look good on these issues. And I think they're right. We can actually take action at the local level. So I would encourage people to go to my website at privacysos.org. Actually, the latest blog that I wrote today is about precisely that, about how you can take action in your local community, no matter where you are throughout the country, to push back against some of this really dangerous radicalization.